What is going on, everybody? Brandon from Awaken Instincts back again with another deck profile for you guys. Today I'm going to go over the set 11 Son Goku Xeno leader. This is a deck I've been toying around with. I experimented a bit with the Gogeta Xeno deck and Vegex. I love experimenting with these rogue black decks. They can be extremely powerful in the format, and I just absolutely love playing with them. So let's go over the leader. He's a burst 3 when he attacks. Add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then draw a card. So he's got Self-Awaken built in. We're bursting 3, and we're drawing cards. And then when we're at 4 or less, we get to draw 1, untap 1. And on the Awaken side, we're at 15k double strike base, which is fantastic. He's got a permanent that says during your turn, this card gets plus 5,000 for every 8 black battle cards in your warp. Most of the time, you're only going to have maybe an extra plus 5, maybe a plus 10 when you get really late in the game. But honestly, most of the time, you don't even get this effect. We're a really aggressive deck. So keep that in mind. And then he's got to activate main once per turn that you can put 4 black battle cards from your warp in your drop and draw a card. So it's up to 4. So even if you have no cards in your warp, you can still just draw a card. It's pretty nice to be able to, you know, even if they shut down your leader and you can't attack for the turn, you can still draw your card with your leader. So that's the leader. So playing around with Gogeta Xeno a bit, I noticed that the leader itself rewarded you for playing fusions and focused more on the 1-drops, but a lot of decks have answers to the 1-drops, and a lot of times you just didn't see your fusions. So the cards felt like they wanted to go fast, but the leader felt more mid-range. So I wanted to try and make basically an aggressive version of Gogeta Xeno, if that makes sense. So we needed a black Saiyan only leader, which we have. And Supreme Kai Time, you know, when she's in the warp, we can put her at the bottom of the deck to play Pycon from either our hand or from the warp. Instead of just warping cards with your leader just to get the fusion off, I figure what if we put them in the drop, use them for Overwhelm, and then when they're in the warp, then we can play, you know, our free play cards. So far this has been working really, really nicely. Pycon's just a great unison. I love the idea of free unisons in black, and he's really, really strong, being 15k. Get this guy off on turn 1. You know, being 15k, it's going to take some work for your opponent to get rid of him. So, absolutely love this. And again, we're running this based on some Gogeta Xeno stuff. This deck doesn't rely quite as heavy on the fusion, so I'm not running 4 and 4. I'm just running these 8 right now. Gogeta blockers, good removal in the format, and the Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta, Marvelous Might, really good to go aggressive. And the thing with this leader is, and the fusion cards, is we just kind of play around with our cards in the drop and the warp, sending them back and forth. But most of the Gogeta stuff, you know, we can play things from the warp, but then put them back in our drop, and then use our leader effect to put more cards in the drop, so it's pretty easy to get off, you know, Overwhelm 5 or 6 in a turn and have it not really mess up your plans. You do have to kind of synchronize a little bit and sequence properly, but it's not quite as hard as Gogeta Xeno. So really aggressive. And then Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta Martial Melee is probably our most aggressive one. I usually only play that off of Pycon for free. I'm usually not paying the 3 for it. It's pretty expensive. So I'll get into the fusion targets. Got 4 Goku, True Fighting Spirit. He's a Self-Awakener. You can have multiple on field. He's got Deflect. Oops, sorry. And when your opponent activates counter skill, they choose a card in their hand and send it to the warp. So then we've got 4 Son Goku Catastrophic Premonition, who's got unique, so unfortunately you can only have 1 out. But he's a 5k double strike, but anytime your opponent basically draws a card using a non-leader card skill, he gets plus 10,000 until the end of your next turn. I talk a lot about these guys in my Gogeta Xeno video, so if you want to know more about what these cards do individually, you can check that out. but these cards will stack and they can grow really big, which is great, but they're 1-drops. They don't have barrier or anything, so most of the time they're getting removed. I never really rely on them to stay around. If they do, then that's great, but do not count on it. So here's some more fusion targets. We're running for the Vegeta Catastrophic Premonition. He's a 5k unique crit that says whenever your opponent plays a battle card, the energy cost greater than their current energy using a skill, he gets plus 10,000 till the end of your next turn. So he can also stack. He can grow up to 35k on your turn. He can go up 10k. Your opponent's turn 10 more, and then on your next turn he can go up to 35 and swing in for a 35 crit. Pretty good. And then Super Saiyan Vegeta, best black super combo currently. He bottom deck 1, draw 2. Whenever you're at 4 or less, gotta have all mono black energy, but that's fine. 2 Black Mass Saiyan, also another good card. You can buff it with Pycon to make him 15k, help him survive on your opponent's turn. Really good in the format. Shuts down tons of decks like Turles and Mecha and any deck that's playing free play stuff. But again, 1-drop, no protection. Don't rely on him too much. So this leader does not burst on the front side. It can put cards back, but we can't get new cards in the drop. So sometimes we're forced to awaken early, or we just don't see the pieces we need in the drop area. So this card's great. You can also warp something from your opponent's drop. So if your opponent's got, Ribrians or whatever the heck it may be, Sin Shenron, you can warp their 1-drop ball. So we're running for that. The leader really likes Overwhelm. He can put cards back every turn, so we got to run some Overwhelm. We're running Trunks Time Regulator 4 of. He's an Overwhelm 3, so he's really easy to get off, early turns because we're bursting 3. This is kind of your turn 1 play you always want to do. What's really nice is with Pycon and Kai. With Pycon and Kai, if we don't burst them, let's say we only burst one of them, but we have another one in hand, we can burst our 3 cards as we attack. Then we can Overwhelm Trunks out, draw 2 and warp a card. And as we Overwhelm, all our cards from our drop will go to our warp. And then the card we choose to warp can be one of these, swing in 15k. And then you get to free play Pycon for the turn. So really good synergy, really like that. Sometimes we want to use more impactful Overwhelms. So Secret Identity Mass Saiyan's great. You could also run Man on a Mission, but this deck doesn't have a ton of removal built in. So I feel like this card's important to have in the main board. You could side it out if it's not good against, if you're playing like Dark Broly, whatever, this card's mediocre. But we need some decent Overwhelms in the deck, and like I said before, it's pretty easy to get 6 in the deck between your leader effect and your Gogeta fusions putting 2 back, or just comboing cards. And then another just really, really good Overwhelm. This card's super good. If you haven't seen him yet, when you play him, you can either play him with Overwhelm or Dark Overwhelm. If you play him with Dark Overwhelm, he'll stick around for the entire turn. We run mainly mono black, so we're fine with Dark Overwhelm. When we play him, we get to draw a card and warp a battle card from our opponent's side. And then every time he attacks, your opponent has to warp a card from hand. So this card's really, really good at putting pressure on, and he's 30k. So, once he's on field, he's kind of tough to get rid of. So we run that card. Getting to some of the more tech cards of the deck, we're running 4 Power Burst. It's pretty easy to keep cards in the drop. We're not overwhelming every single turn in this deck. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Depends on if we see them, but we don't absolutely rely on it. 4 Power Burst, super essential. 2 Mechi Kabura in the main board. Broken Seal. This card's just really, really good in format. Can shut down your opponent's turns. If we can't quite finish off our opponent with our leader double strike, or our fusions, or our unison, or our overwhelms, we have all these free play or low energy cost cards. If we can't quite get there, we've got Mechi Kabura to help us get to our next turn. And then our last 2 cards in the deck, Hidden Power, East Supreme Kai. You know, we want to swing double strikes with all sorts of stuff. Most of the stuff in the deck is pretty big. You know, putting the Kai on Demigra, who's already 30k, and warping a card from hand is really, really good. Putting it on your Gogetas, you know, putting it on your 20k Gogeta, swinging it for a 30 double strikes, really good. Or putting it on my favorite, which is the 1-drop Vegeta that goes up every turn. This guy can go up to like 35 crit, so if you could pull it off, swing on your turn when he's at 35, combo this, make him 45 double strike crit. It's really gross, but very easy to get around, you know, it's very cheeky. But the deck's really fun. It's been testing better than I thought it initially would, so I thought I'd like share with you guys. I'll probably be playing this at my locals going forward for a little bit, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you next time. Peace out.